Today's Storybook segment is brought to you by LL Bean.
I recognize farming as a way in which we could take products that we grow, that we touch, that we eat, and use them to talk about larger environmental issues. It just seemed like a great conversation point, both because eating is so sensual, and who doesn't like being at a table and talking with their friends and neighbors about why we're here and what we're doing. I'm Beth Schiller, and I am the owner of Dandelion Spring Farm. I've been farming in Maine for about 20 years. I've been on this property for just 3.5 years. This is unceded Wabanaki territory and Wabanaki land, and I feel incredibly gifted to be able to take care of this land right now. This land was last farmed commercially in 1940. It was an apple orchard called Apple Core Farm. One reason why this property was attractive to me is that it has extremely good soil. And Maine Farmland Trust has an easement on this property, so it will now be forever agricultural land. And so I have been in the process of taking it back from all of the invasive species that have decided to make it its home. So you're witnessing a farmer and snippets of a business that is both very well established, but is also in many ways very new. So some of these are greens that are different varieties that we cut for lettuce mix. These here are some examples of some French iceberg lettuces. And one reason why we like them is that they just have a really sweet flavor, unlike iceberg that you might have grown up with in a cellophane wrapper. They often think of like large, very cellular heads that are very dense, but generally without flavor. They're a carrier for dressing. Whereas these guys, I feel like, are iceberg that have a lot of flavor, and they also hold up well. So chefs who prefer the kind of fine serrated nature of their leaves like them because they can put them on a dish that might be a little bit warm and they'll still hold their shape. So they taste good, they look good. I grew up in Reedfield, which is about 30 minutes as a crow flies that way. In the era of recycling coming to Maine and I think some early awareness of environmental issues. When I first started farming and as an adult, I decided that I was only going to eat food that was seasonal. And for me, that also meant putting some food away. Because at the time, I had learned to eat tomatoes year round. So canning tomatoes or freezing tomatoes is an art and a science that's not that hard. It's something that anyone can do if you have an oven and a pan and a plastic bag or a glass jar. As a farmer, I'm continually thinking about the styles of how I farm. And if you were to come and do a video here next year, you would see a bunch of permanent beds. So we're going to be shifting our styles to a method that will be more intensive in terms of taking care of the soil, less intensive in terms of tractor and other equipment use. When I first started farming in Maine, there were not many people like me. I would often go to conferences and I would be the only woman at the conference. I didn't have any production farming female role models. Now that has totally changed. The number of farms has been increasing, and it's often been small farms that are really diverse. And so in the nation, Maine and New England rank the highest in the number of new farms that are run by women. And yeah, this year we are a team of women identified farmers, and they're awesome. I think one thing that we've really tried to cultivate at Dandelion Spring is a team where everybody has their own unique leadership role. We don't need fancy job titles. Everybody is equal in their knowledge, even though all of their knowledge is very different. And the way in which they support each other and the way in which they've communicated together throughout the season is just like a beautiful dance to watch. We always like to encourage people to grow their own food. We think that's always like the best tasting food. So a lettuce like this, we sell the seedlings for periodically throughout the season. These are all varieties that we tend to just cut the whole thing and sell it as a single unit. But either way could happen. So I feel really, really lucky that as a community in Maine, we have continued to be inspired by local food, and organizations like MOFGA and Maine Farmland Trust have been really good about making sure that there are a lot of resources to our community to make sure that People have easy access to food. The Maine Harvest Buck program has been doubling SNAP dollars, so if people come to the farmers market, they can get double the amount of food that they might otherwise. Dandelion Spring was selling 60% to restaurants prior to COVID-19, so that created a rapid shift, both to a certain extent in what we were growing and how we were also marketing it. We love and support our restaurants and also know that they were at a time where buying a lot of local greens, and particularly more of the kind of smaller, high-end products that we like to specialize in, didn't fit where they were last year and at the start of this year. I have the gift of going into the back doors of so many kitchens in Portland. It energizes me every time. As someone who is an introvert, it is like phenomenally exciting and charging in a way I never would have predicted, to be able to walk into the back door of a kitchen and converse with a unique chef with a unique personality, a unique palate, with the food that we have. For the farm team, who primarily spends their time here, it is really exciting for them to be able to see the snippets of our food in our community and how the food stands out individually for all of the different chefs and people that we work with. Josh! Working with chefs is like working with an artist. So for example, Chef Josh and I like to talk about arugula. And so those individual relationships are really fun. As a farmer, I have some skill and I have a lot of luck, but it's the relationships we make with our community that really inspire me to get out there. They make me want to come home and grow more.